Welcome to the Touch MBA Admissions Podcast. Do you need help figuring out which schools to apply to or how to get into the world's top MBA programs? Hey, you're not alone. Join thousands of others on this podcast and on our site, touchmba.com, as they seek the admissions edge. And now, here's your host, Darren Joe.
What's up, Touch MBA family? This is your host, Darren. Welcome to the show. I hope you're doing terrific wherever you are in the world. For those of you first-time listeners, what we do here is bring on students, faculty, career services directors, admissions directors from the world's top MBA programs. We interview them. We try to get beneath the shiny websites and brochures and help you guys really figure out what these programs are all about, what they're looking for, and how you can get in. This week, I brought Dr. Christoph Schneider on the show. He's the Associate Director of the MBA program at CityU Hong Kong. And this is a relatively new full-time MBA program that was just launched. But I think it's quite interesting. It's a smaller program, about 40 students per class. They place an emphasis on experiential learning. And you have a lot of flexibility to customize the curriculum to your career interests. So check out this program if you're interested in studying and working in Hong Kong, China, and Asia. Here at Touch MBA, we really want to help you figure out which MBA programs fit you best. We think that's a really important part of the puzzle. So if you need help doing this, go head over to touchmba.com. Tell us more about yourself, and we'd love to help you out there for free. And also, given that it's early April when I'm recording this, I'm sure some of you have gotten some exciting results from the application season. If so, if you've gotten into your target schools, or maybe even if you haven't, feel free to write me at darren@touchmba.com. That's DARREN @touchmba.com. Hearing about your success is what motivates me and the team. And so if you have some good results you'd like to share with us, please let us know. And now on to the show. I'd like to welcome Dr. Christoph Schneider, who is the Associate Director of the MBA program at CityU HK. And he's also the Assistant Professor in the Department of Information Systems, where he's been for over a decade. So I think Christoph has a lot of great experience to share with our audience, and I can't wait to learn more. Dr. Christoph, welcome to the Touch MBA podcast.
Well, Darren, thanks a lot for having me, and thank you very much for the introduction.
Yes. So, would you mind, before we jump into the program, telling us a little bit more about what you do at CityU?
Well, at CityU, my roles are quite varied. I started out primarily in a teaching and research role in the area of information systems, but I have since moved a bit more to the MBA program, where I'm responsible for both student admissions as well as student placements. So really kind of the input into the program as well as the output, trying to help our students excel in their careers.
That's a lot of responsibility. I think you're the first person I've interviewed who's in charge of both input and output. So the first question I'd like to ask all my guests, and especially you, Christoph, is, what makes the CityU Hong Kong MBA unique from all the other top programs in Hong Kong and in the world?
Well, there are really three things that make our program unique. And that is, first of all, the experiential learning component. Second, the ability to gain a truly global perspective and industry insights. And finally, career advancements. So I guess we'll talk about all of these aspects as we go through the podcast here. But really what we believe on is that a lot of the learning, or maybe even most of the learning, takes place not inside the classroom, but through hands-on learning and applying what our students have gained throughout the classes.
Yeah, and I noticed that was a really interesting part of the curriculum for me when I was preparing for this interview, because you require, a certain amount of credits to be taken in this experiential learning part of your curriculum. And you have activity-based learning courses, management practice courses, and global experiential learning opportunities too. So can you just go into a little more detail about, what exciting sort of opportunities your students have in this experiential learning space?
Certainly. So all of these courses are designed to enable our students to further the soft skills that are so necessary to succeed in today's business world. And so we have a number of different experiential learning opportunities, just as you mentioned. So, for example, we have our entrepreneurship and business plan development workshop, which every year takes place in Berkeley, California, where our students are working on developing a novel business idea and turning it into something that could become a viable business. So it's something where they have the opportunity to apply everything they have learned throughout the courses and in the end, pitch their ideas to successful entrepreneurs. Another really interesting experiential learning project is our what we call enterprise residential diagnostic trip, which takes place in Asia. We have taken our students to China. We have taken our students to Malaysia, Cambodia. This year, we're taking our students to Korea. And during this trip, our students work as consultants to a company. And so they have to diagnose the different issues that the company may have in various areas. And at the end of the trip, propose some recommendations and solutions to the top management of the organization. And so these trips really incorporate a lot of need for teamwork and for communication, both within the student teams, but also with the hosting organization. And in the end, the final presentations and recommendations will be made to senior level executives of the organization. So it's really a high pressure situation that our students are in here, which prepares them well for their future careers.
Yeah, it seems like the study trips to Berkeley, to London, and to various cities in Asia seem to be a real highlight in your program. How long are those residential trips, and are they required?
These trips are typically between 7 and 10 days, so they are long enough to be quite meaningful, but also they are not too long, so it's really a very intense experience there. Normally, our students participate in one or two of these trips, depending on the area of interest that they're focusing on. So, for example, as I mentioned, the trip to Berkeley focuses primarily on entrepreneurship and business plan development. And the trip that you just brought up to the UK, that focuses on brand management. So there are each trip has a different focus. And so our students can choose whether they want to attend 1, 2, or maybe even 3 of these trips.
Absolutely. And academically, where do you think CityU really stands out?
Well, in addition to the experiential learning program, what also makes us stand out is the flexible curriculum. So if you think about an MBA program, by design, an MBA focuses on breadth. So it's really a general business degree that prepares future leaders that then possess the knowledge and skills across a range of business disciplines. Well, here at CityU, we do offer this generalist MBA degree, but we are also unique in that we enable our students to obtain depth in 1 or 2 particular areas. So we have what we call concentrations, and these concentrations are in the subject areas of accounting, finance, information management, marketing, or supply chain management. And so our graduates who choose to focus on one of these concentrations or even 2 concentrations, they can combine the breadth that you would see in a typical general MBA program with the depth that is offered by the concentration courses.
And why those 5 particular concentrations? Are they strengths of CityU business school?
Yes, exactly. And so what we are really proud of is our expert faculty that bring in cutting edge knowledge into the classroom. And the strength of our business schools are really in those areas. So this is something where we do have strengths, but we also see that these are areas that have been very important in the business world, but also continue to be. Just thinking about information management, for example, with the rise in artificial intelligence and big data, influences all of the business disciplines, and supply chain management, marketing are changing rapidly over the years. And so these areas, we believe, are really important to give our students an edge in their future career.
Can I ask which of those concentrations is the most popular?
I would say finance is probably the most popular concentration, and that is primarily due to Hong Kong being a financial hub here in Asia, with a lot of the jobs being in the finance area. And so quite a few of our students focus on finance as a concentration, but then some also combine finance with a second concentration, such as information management.
And if we could take a step back for, many of our listeners that aren't from Hong Kong, what is CityU's reputation in Hong Kong, in China, and in the world? What is it known for?
Well, Hong Kong is one of the top universities here in Hong Kong as well as in Asia. One of the core strengths of CityU is really the focus on discovery and innovation. So what we are striving for here at CityU is giving all of our students, no matter if they're undergraduate students, MBA students, or PhD students, the opportunity to make unique discoveries and coming up with innovative solutions to the problems that businesses and societies face. So this focus on discovery and innovation makes CityU as a university stand out.
And Christoph, I'm assuming you are not from Hong Kong?
That is true.
So clearly you've chosen to, spend a lot of your career in Hong Kong. Why do you think MBA candidates in particular should consider getting their MBA in Hong Kong, of all places?
Well, to give you the long answer, I was born and raised in Germany, and I have lived in the United States for about 7 or 8 years of my life before coming here to Hong Kong. And Hong Kong is just a great city, and it has a number of benefits. First of all, Hong Kong is the gateway to China. It's really a place where you have a very diverse mix of cultures. The city is very international, so you find a lot of companies from Western countries who take Hong Kong as their base for doing business in China. You also have a lot of Chinese companies. And so you, as a student, if you think about focusing on anything that is related to China in your future career, it gives you an excellent opportunity to really gain insights into the unique culture of China while still having all the benefits of a very, very international city with all the connections, both in terms of physical or virtual connections to basically any place of the world. There's another great benefit about Hong Kong, and that is, so it has a very friendly visa policy. For students from most countries, they have the opportunity to get a visa for 1 year after graduation, which allows them to stay here in Hong Kong. They don't even need to have a job. They can stay here in Hong Kong. They can look for jobs. They can take on internships and can continue remaining here in Hong Kong until they find a company that sponsors a longer term visa. So that is something that is great about Hong Kong, where you really have that opportunity to get this in-depth experience and also have the opportunity to take this as a starting point, so to speak, for a career in Asia.
Yeah, and speaking of starting points, and given your kind of long history with the program and responsibility for the career management side of things, how have you seen I'm curious how you've seen the employment market for MBAs change, kind of with the role of China changing in the world, how that has affected maybe job opportunities in Hong Kong. I'd just be curious to get your kind of off the cuff thoughts here.
Well, I would say things have changed over the past years. There has been an up and down. For some time, it appeared as if more and more Western companies would move directly into China. Now it seems quite a few companies right now feel a bit safer here in Hong Kong, not moving too much into China. And so that gives obviously a lot of opportunities for international graduates from our MBA program. Obviously, there's always the competition from native Chinese speakers, which is something that graduates will always face. However, what we're seeing more and more is that many of our international students are quite successful in finding jobs here in Hong Kong after graduation.
Yeah, and why do you think that is? Or what do you think they're doing to find those jobs?
Well, a lot of times it is really having the soft skills. The soft skills is what enables our students to excel in the job interviews and hopefully later on in their lives. So it's the soft skills, but it is also the cross-cultural experience that our students gain. That is something that is also a bit unique about our program. Comparing different programs in Hong Kong, you see that the student population is quite different at City University. At other universities in Hong Kong, you see student populations that are a highly diverse mix of students from a variety of countries. So it's almost like any student body you find at universities in the US. Here at City University in our MBA program, we do have quite a good diversity in our program, but we have a very high number of students from China. And what that does is it gives our students the opportunity to really deeply interact with students from mainland China, work with them in teams, practice their teamwork, management, and communication skills, which I believe is quite important for any employer here in the region, so that you not only have that experience in terms of working with people from a variety of countries, but having that specific experience and cultural knowledge that you can gain in our program.
That's crystal clear. And if we can move to the admissions side of things. Yeah, so, what cultural fit qualities are you really looking for from applicants?
Well, obviously we're, as many MBA programs, are looking for a good academic background and work experience. However, what we see as really important is that the applicants are eager to learn and to contribute to any activities inside or outside the classrooms. Because we strongly believe that our students not only learn from the professors, but they learn most from interacting with each other. So it's a two-way street. And so really that willingness to contribute to activities is very important.
Yeah, and do you guys require essays and recommendations? I know you definitely have an interview.
We do require a short essay. We do not require recommendations. What's going to happen for any shortlisted applicants is that we invite them to participate in an interview that would be either taking place here in Hong Kong or other cities in Southeast Asia, or for applicants from further away, those interviews would be arranged via typically Skype or phone. And after that interview, we also require a short reflection essay where we just want to see in how far the applicant sees his or her fit with the program.
Interesting. That's really interesting. And so who conducts the interviews on your side?
Well, we typically conduct the interviews as a team. So normally I would be involved in those interviews as well as our program director, depending on the locations. Sometimes if an applicant is interested in the concentrations, then we would try to have a faculty member from the concentration area as well, just kind of to gauge the applicant's potential for success in that area.
And I know, having done admissions myself, that is not easy to get faculty on these interviews. Yes. Very expensive time-wise for them. But maybe because these interviews seem to play a very important part of your admissions process, could you kind of give an indication of the types of questions you ask and what you're looking for in the interview?
For the physical interviews, typically what happens is that it's a process that consists of two parts. One part being a group interview where the applicants have to read through a brief case and then have to discuss and come up with a solution in a group, obviously under time pressure. And so what we do is we observe the applicants, how they interact, and what roles do they take on during that group interaction, so as to determine how they would, or to see how they would interact in a classroom case environment. And then the second part would be an individual interview or a very small group interview where we are looking more for the applicant's motivations and personality.
And do applicants tend to get very nervous in that kind of case simulation atmosphere you put them in? I'm wondering if maybe over the years you've seen some, or maybe if you could give some tips basically to our listeners who are about to go through that process.
Well, especially the group interview process obviously is a tough one because it is very difficult to prepare for that. And one thing to prepare for that, or the biggest tip to prepare for that, would be to just do some background research on the different roles that people play within teams and how people can contribute to a teamwork process. What we see a lot is that the applicants get together and they read through the case and then they just jump right into a discussion without even thinking about, okay, how would a well-functioning team approach this process? What do we need as a team? What do we need to do? Do we maybe need someone to take notes? Do we need someone to take the lead of the discussion? Do we need someone to take on some facilitating role? Do we need someone to play devil's advocate? Right? So all of these roles having those roles defined can greatly help to come up with a good solution to the case. Obviously, with the case, there's often not a right or wrong solution, but it's the process of arriving at that solution. And so thinking about that and demonstrating that you can take an active role in such discussions can make the applicant stand out.
There's some really good tips there. And I've always wondered, in this sort of group interview done in the admissions process, what about those introverts or people who, aren't very vocal, but could be just as effective, right, in a team setting? I mean, what advice would you give those people who maybe are, definitely contributors, but not naturally prone to speak up all the time?
Well, there's a couple of parts to that. First of all, obviously, the group interview for every applicant means that they have to get out of their comfort zone.
Sure.
Even for extroverts, it is a completely novel situation with quite some pressure, and everyone has to kind of get out of their comfort zone. For introverts, obviously, it's a bit of a bigger step. However, again, as you mentioned, introverts can make as much of a contribution as extroverts. And it's really not the quantity that counts, but it is the quality. Obviously, in order to contribute to any group discussion, one has to participate. There's no way around it. So there's no way for us to judge the quality of a potential contribution if it is not vocalized in any way during the group interaction. So for introverts, again, I would say it's not the quantity. There may be people who talk a lot during the group interview, but with very little substance. And there are others who maybe only make one or two contributions, but these are of very high quality, bringing the discussion forward. And so it's not about the quantity, but it is about contribution to the group discussions in a way that moves the overall discussion forward toward a solution.
And what types of applicants really stand out to you and the program director and the faculty that are involved in the admissions process?
Well, for me, what I think is really important is diversity and personality, because, again, as I mentioned, so much of the learning takes place between the students, but also we as faculty members can learn so much from the students. And so anything that is unique really makes an applicant interesting. And I believe that every single person has something that is unique about them. That can be a unique hobby, that can be some unique experiences, but all of that can really contribute to making an applicant interesting and can help to enrich the learning environment within the classroom. And so I'm looking for this uniqueness and personality, and how far are those applicants able to integrate into our learning environment, and how far can they bring something special, something diverse to our cohort.
Yeah, and when you mention that diversity and personality, I just want to be clear that you mean not just professional diversity in terms of function and industry, which probably counts for a lot too, right? But other unique perspectives of seeing the world, right?
Yes, exactly. So it's not just academic backgrounds, work backgrounds, but really personal experience, being able to demonstrate that there is a person behind the applicant is what I'm looking for.
Yeah. So I'm guessing they can showcase that, in the resume and in that one-on-one interview that you guys have? Yeah. Okay.
Yes, exactly.
And so, do you have any last tips on how applicants can improve their chances of admissions?
Well, I would say, and those tips are probably true for any program, first of all, having good communication skills, being able to communicate who you are, why you want to earn an MBA degree. Having a good GMAT score certainly helps. But finally, being able to demonstrate the fit with the program. And I think that's why many of your listeners or our listeners are here, because they want to learn about the different programs. And just being able to demonstrate that the applicant has the understanding that different programs have different strengths or have different features, and thinking about how the program can support their career goals in the end. And that is something that I think is probably most important, being able to demonstrate, okay, well, this is why I want to earn the MBA at City University and not at the University of Hong Kong or National University of Singapore.
Right. Right. And I mean, on that note, in terms of demonstrating fit, there obviously has to be a high level of research, right? And
Yes.
And given that your program is very customizable, in my opinion, how can applicants go beyond the website and really kind of get an insider view into what their options would be? Say if they were interested in entering a supply chain career, they can see those electives in the concentration, they can see the core courses, they can see the student clubs and so forth. But if they really want to design their own kind of custom path through CityU, How would you advise them to really understand kind of the program so they can propose something really impressive and meaningful to them, obviously, too?
Well, I would always say contact us. Contact us if there are any questions that are not answered from the website. We have a great team in our MBA office that are very willing to answer any questions that potential applicants may have. Also, during the later stages, we can connect applicants with our current students so that they can maybe get an inside scoop and get some answers to some of the questions that they may have.
Okay, yeah, I'll be sure to link to, for all the listeners, how they can contact you guys. I have another question on something you mentioned about careers, right? Why they need this MBA, what they plan to do with it. Given that CityU is relatively, I would say, a shorter length, right? Of as I understand it, 1 year with the option to extend to 1.5 or 2 years, depending on your concentrations and exchanges and so forth. But it's essentially a 1 year full-time MBA, right? So how specific of career goals are you looking for from your applicants?
Well, obviously having a somewhat clear goal for the career will help to articulate why our particular program might be the best fit for the applicants. On the other hand, we also understand that a lot of our applicants are or want to pursue an MBA degree because they want to change careers. And what we do is, having that in mind, we have a variety of activities offered by our career services team. And all those activities are designed, workshops, meetings, networking events, and so on. They're really designed to help our students define their career goals, develop their own personal career strategies, understand the target industries that they may want to go into, and finally to execute the career strategy. So we have a lot of different activities that help students, even if they do not have very clear career goals or if they don't have the understanding of different industries, we help them to really find the best place or the best starting point for their long-term careers.
And I mean, do you guys offer that help before they get in? I mean, obviously not at the same level that they would get as students of your program, but, to applicants who are kind of looking to see if CityU is the right fit, but, maybe thinking about 2 or 3 different paths, is your team willing to kind of counsel, in a sense, those applicants as well?
Well,
or do they really need to come in with that plan?
Well, at this point, the counseling is primarily devoted to our current program.
Yeah.
I do have to say we have a fairly small program compared to some of the other universities. So in our full-time cohort, we have around 40 students, give or take, each year, which means it is a very familiar, smaller environment. That also obviously means that we don't have the resources of many of the bigger programs in providing career advice or counseling to non-students. And we really try to focus our efforts and give this individualized advice to our current students.
Yeah, that makes total sense. For scholarships, I know this is also a very big part of the equation for many of our listeners. Could you explain what percentage of your class gets scholarships, average scholarship amounts if you have that, and of course how applicants can improve their chances of winning some funding?
Well, the percentage of scholarships varies from year to year. However, what we do have is we have quite a variety of different types of scholarships. So, for example, students can earn scholarships for having a high GMAT score, significant work experience, can qualify for scholarships, having some unique experiences, bringing in diversity in particular areas. It can be having studied in unique places or having worked in NGOs or things like that. anything that can bring in diversity into the program can help to qualify for a scholarship. And basically, as we look at the applicants, we automatically nominate the applicants for scholarships that they may be eligible for to receive, and applicants can receive multiple scholarships concurrently. And so when I'm saying screening applicants, that also means, again, we're not only looking at one or two dimensions in our applicants. We're not only looking at, okay, how many years of work experience do they have and what's their GMAT score, but we take a more holistic view of the applications. And so we're really trying to see each applicant as a person. And so then we can also see, okay, well, how does that applicant, or how would that applicant qualify for a scholarship at CityU?
And on that note, I know you guys have rolling admissions. So do a lot of the scholarships get taken up early in your cycle? Or would you say, those who apply in later rounds still have a good shot?
Definitely. So it's not the way that we basically assign or give away all the scholarships at the very beginning, but applicants at later stages have also a high shot at receiving those scholarships as well.
Fantastic. Yeah, on the career side of things. So, could you give us an idea of where, historically most of your grads have gone into? Like, you mentioned finance is a big academic focus. Does that mean that, a sizable percentage of your grads move into the finance industry in Hong Kong?
Yes, definitely. So this is something that really is, again, it's one of the strengths of Hong Kong is the finance industry. But obviously, things are changing, the world is changing. And what we're seeing is that in addition to the more traditional paths in finance, we see that students are being more interested in technology and entrepreneurship. And so we also see a lot of our students going more into those areas. So, and again, there's some great opportunities here in Hong Kong based on this visa scheme where our students can stay in Hong Kong for up to a year after graduation. And we have a very vibrant startup and entrepreneur community here in Hong Kong, which obviously gives a wide range of opportunities for our graduates who want to focus more on technology, entrepreneurship, startups, and so on.
Yeah, and I'm really interested in this question because I do see a trend in applicants who really want to start their own business or want to help bigger companies start new businesses, right? Within these big corporations. But for that first category of students, coming out of an MBA with, paying substantial amount for tuition and so forth, like, I'm wondering what you've seen those students interested in starting their own companies. Do they tend to work for bigger companies for a couple of years after they graduate, or are they just going, full steam ahead and starting companies, even with having just paid tuition at your MBA program?
Well, I would say that really depends on the individual applicants. You see it both ways. It really largely obviously depends on the financial resources of the applicants. We have some applicants who have some large financial backing, so to speak, others less so. So obviously that puts certain limits on the activities or jobs that the applicants are able to take on after graduation. One thing about City University is that I believe we do offer very good value for money. So that means that comparing our program to some of the other programs in Hong Kong, our tuition fees, and then in combination with the various scholarships that we have available, can significantly reduce this investment that students have to make in their education.
Yeah. So like literally looking at that return on investment. So that's a focus of your program, right?
Yes, yes.
Yes. And yeah, I mean, any other trends you're seeing as, watching the input and output of your program in terms of careers? Yeah.
Well, what I'm seeing is that our students are becoming increasingly active and aggressive in pursuing their careers. So we really see some very strong candidates who perform very well in the job market as they go through the program. So it's a great development that we've had over the past couple of years.
Yeah. And is there anything else, about the CityU Hong Kong MBA that you just wish more candidates knew about?
In addition to experiential learning components of the programs, one thing that I believe is very unique and helpful for students in advancing their careers is our business mentorship program. And that's quite a unique program where we pair our students with senior executives and business leaders who work as their mentors. And so we have a variety of workshops, meetings, networking events, and so on, where the students can interact with the mentors who help them understand the career goals, help them build their networks, and develop their careers. So this is something that is quite unique about our program. Also, one other thing is the large alumni network. So especially students who envision their future here in the region, be it Hong Kong or be it the PRC, they will be able to connect with not only our MBA alumni, but also alumni from our executive MBA programs and the Doctor of Business Administration programs. And many of these have very senior leadership positions in Hong Kong, in China, or other countries of Southeast Asia. And so these connections will really help our students boost their careers.
Yeah. How big is the alumni network of CityU? Like, how many alumni do you guys have?
Oh, wow. This is a tough question that I really can't answer off the top of my head. Our full-time MBA program is still quite young. However, our part-time MBA program, our executive MBA program, and our DBA programs have been around for decades. So there is quite a large alumni network.
Yes. And yeah, one last question on that, on the mentorship that you mentioned. I also found that very special to your program. How much how much can students determine who their mentors are, and how much contact do they have with their mentors?
Typically, we try to pair students with mentors who are within their field of interest, so in the particular industries. So this pairing normally happens from us at Career Services. In terms of the contact between the students and the mentors, that really depends largely on the students. The mentors are very, very willing to provide support and mentorship to the students. However, typically the students only receive as much mentorship and guidance as they ask for. And that is something about being proactive, reaching out to the mentor, and also seeing mentorship not only as a one-way relationship, but also seeing it as a two-way street. Because in the end, it is not only the student, the mentee, who gains something from the mentorship relationship, but also the mentors themselves that gain something by interacting with our students, getting new perspectives, and so on. And so as a student, you would have to think about, well, what can I bring into this relationship, which then obviously makes the entire relationship more interesting and gives more opportunities for meetings and interactions with the mentors.
Yeah, and I think that's a good place to end this conversation, thinking about how you can contribute, right? Wherever you are, whether it's to your MBA program, to your future employer, to your mentor. Dr. Christoph, I just want to thank you for your time and insight into your process and what you're looking for at CityU MBA. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Well, thank you so much, Darren, for having me at the show. And anyone who is interested in the CityU MBA program, please don't hesitate to contact us, reach out to us, and we can hopefully answer any other questions you may have.
Thanks for listening to the Touch MBA podcast. Don't be shy. We have a mailing list. Go to touchmba.com and get yourself signed up. And we'll keep you posted with the best tips and insider interviews on how to get into your number one school. You can also find us on Twitter and Facebook at Touch MBA. See you soon.